Hey everybody, how's it going? I believe that we are live, and this is still not something that I'm super familiar with or comfortable with doing, but I'm doing it anyways because, as many of you know, yesterday, Wizards of the Coast announced 8 new subclasses. The what are they calling this? Something about Forgotten Realms. Forgotten Realms subclasses that you can find on D&D Beyond, the PDF if you want to. You might have to scroll down a little bit because there's a lot of stuff on that homepage right now. Yeah, 8 new subclasses, super exciting. But of course, the most exciting one, as everybody knows, is the Bladesinger. We're finally getting an update to the Bladesinger for 2024 rules. I'm thrilled. I'm concerned, and I have a lot of thoughts. So I wanted to share them with you guys. And I just didn't want to take the time to like write a script and record it and edit it and all that kind of stuff because it's just, I got to talk about it. It's too exciting. Everybody's been asking me when I'm going to come out with a video. So here we go. Yeah, I did think it was a little rude of Wizards of the Coast to release this bomb, to drop this bomb on the same day that they had lifted the embargo to talk about the new monster manual for those of us who had early access to the new monster manual. So we were all, well, a bunch of us anyways, were putting out videos on the new monster manual stuff, and then right in the middle of that it's like, oh, by the way, here's 8 new subclasses that are in Unearthed Arcana, including the best subclass of all time. So yeah, I was feeling a little like, oh man, I can't just release a video today. This was me yesterday because that was going to cannibalize any views that I might have been getting for the video that I put out yesterday on the wild shape beasts. So, anyways, let me see. Okay, I'm seeing a bunch of comments. Hi everybody. I'm really bad at multi. I'm really bad at multitasking. I'm not bad at multiclassing unless you consider multiclassing an abomination, in which case I'm really bad at it. That was a funny Freudian slip. Yes, I'm really bad at multitasking, so uh, I'm not gonna do a great job of like reading and responding to the comments while I'm doing this. I will try to take some time at the end to look at the comments and reply to maybe a few of them. I know that it's great to kind of be interactive here. Obviously, like super chats end up just getting my attention more than other chats, but don't feel obligated to do that, please. If you want to, awesome, and thanks. But really, we're just here to mostly talk about Bladesingers. Let me quickly just kind of give brief thoughts on the other classes that they've released with this UA. I've read over the entire document. I haven't taken a ton of time to like sit down and really analyze, everything and do a deep dive and think about, okay, like how good is this really? Generally speaking, I like what they've done. Almost every subclass I think has some really good pros, maybe some drawbacks or things that could get buffed a little bit, or maybe they're too strong, right? But yeah, generally I think that they've done a good job here. The College of the Moon Bard, the standout feature there, I think, is the fact that they can reduce enemy saving throws, similar to the way the Lore Bard works in BG3. Take a drink. And yeah, so that one looks good and pretty fun and pretty flavorful. Fitting, I suppose, that I have a map of the Sword Coast behind us here as we're talking about, right, all of these Forgotten Realms subclasses. But yeah, the College of the Moon Bards come from the Moonshae Isles, which, in case you didn't know, are these isles right here, just off the coast there of the Sword Coast. Anyways, they look a lot of fun and flavorful. I think the Knowledge Domain Cleric is probably the weakest mechanically, anyways, I think, of the new subclasses that we're seeing. It's definitely an improvement over the 2014 version of the Knowledge Cleric. There's some good like utility here, and again, fun kind of flavorful, mastermindy type stuff that you can do and support and utility. but not a ton of awesome like mechanical power. I don't think, maybe outside of the level 17 feature. I don't know. You guys may disagree. Purple Dragon Knight it looks awesome. It's How to Train Your Dragon. I mean, really, it's a ripoff of the Drake Warden, right? That we got with, was it Fizzbands, I believe. Poor Rangers. it's yeah, it's very similar to the Drake Warden. Not exactly, of course. There's some differences. Way better than the old version of the Purple Dragon Knight that we had under the 2014 rules, which was probably the weakest of all fighter subclasses, right? My favorite thing about that Purple Dragon Knight is the fact that your little pet Mammothest Dragonling that you get, right, can do the pull or push with their kind of gravity breath or whatever it's called. And I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind, and probably a lot of yours too, is since they can fly, right? Fly up above enemies and pull them up into the air. They're going to fall prone and take damage. There's just lots of cool stuff. And then eventually you can ride them and even, ride them as a flying mount. Lots of cool, fun opportunities there. The Noble Genie's Paladin is, I think, the strongest of all the subclasses that we are seeing here. As far as just pure power goes, they get some really awesome features. Their Elemental Smite is great. Letting you automatically grapple and restrain an enemy using your Channel Divinity. So, I mean, it's limited use, but it doesn't even give a size restriction. It doesn't even give a duration for that. I'm sure that was probably accidentally left out. I'm assuming it's probably only for a round or so. But yeah, no save, no size restriction, just auto restrained. That's amazing. And the other stuff is good too. They've got a great spell list. I mean, Conjure Minor Elementals is on there, which can potentially be problematic, but paladins don't get it until level 13. So it's not going to scale so out of control like it does on other classes. So it's probably okay. Anyways, there's some really good stuff for the Pally. Winter Walker Ranger, I like. At first glance, I appreciate that it's sort of more tied to a specific kind of type of land, which we sort of lost for good and bad, I suppose, with the 2024 version of really with the Tasha's Cauldron of Everything version of the Ranger, right? It's good for a Ranger. I'll put it that way. For a 2024 Ranger, I think there's some good stuff there. They're kind of doubling down on the tying stuff to Hunter's Mark, which I don't hate conceptually. I just want Hunter's Mark to be better. Let it lose the bonus action to cast or at least transfer eventually, and or concentration, my opinion. But we've talked about that enough. We don't need to get into it. But yeah, generally, I think they've got some good stuff and are competitive with, and maybe even slightly better than the other 2024 Ranger subclasses that we're seeing. Scion of the Three Rogue looks like a lot of fun. My first thought is like, these guys are going to be really good at kind of taking out targets who are kind of already on their way to being dead anyways, which is cool. And it's cool conceptually too. I also can't help but think, it's more powerful, generally tactically, as player characters in D&D to be able to sort of take out enemies kind of early in the fight rather than when they're already probably about to die anyways. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it's almost like this rogue is really good, or at least better at like ending a fight that looks like you're probably already going to win, which at that point, maybe you don't need power there as much as you do, when it's kind of still in question. I don't know. That was just an initial thought. I need to take a better look at it, I think. I mean, doing more damage to bloodied targets is great, and it might be the very first target that you're making attacks against, right? And if you can eliminate them when you otherwise might have left them alive for a round, hey, that's great. So yeah, there's some cool stuff there, some persistent damage, causing fear. Might be the most powerful rogue subclass. Arcane Trickster, I don't know. Anyways, like I say, I haven't thought about it too much. Really like the Spellfire Sorcery Sorcerer. They remind me a lot of like the Divine, oh boy, the the sorcerer that got the cleric spell list, Divine Order, Divine Soul. The Divine Soul Sorcerer kind of reminds me, or actually maybe more like a light cleric, right? There's like fire and radiant stuff. They can kind of damage, but then there's also support. I don't know. They look pretty cool. I like what I'm seeing. And then we get to the Bladesinger. So, right. Let me do this. Let me just kind of go over the changes briefly. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. You can read it, obviously. But then I want to give maybe sort of a meta-analysis of what I think about these changes. So, first of all, we get, you still get your Blade Song at level 3 now instead of level 2, of course, because that's when you get your subclass now, right? As a wizard. Still a bonus action to cast, lasts for a minute. You can now do it intelligence modifier times per day instead of proficiency bonus times, which is fine. Probably better for us early game. Might not be as good late game, but it's fine. Then you still get the bonus to your armor class and your concentration checks equal to your intelligence modifier. You still get the bonus to your move speed. But the big difference here is that you can now use intelligence to attack, essentially, right? You can use it for your plus to hit and plus to damage instead of dexterity or strength. That is huge. I'll talk about my thoughts more in a second. But yeah, that's awesome. One big difference, though, training in War and Song gives us proficiency with all melee martial weapons that don't have the two-handed or heavy property. And the weapon can be used as a spellcasting focus. That is also huge, and I love. And it's great that we could use a longsword now or a battle axe even, right? As long as we're not using the versatile property there and making attacks with two hands. And then we get some skill proficiencies. One big difference here, though, is that we don't get the armor proficiency, right? We used to get light armor, and we don't any longer. And we can't be wearing armor in order to benefit from Blade Song. No armor, not even your studded leather, right? And again, this has some pretty big ramifications for my overall thoughts on the changes. So we'll get to those in a second. Then you extra attack hasn't changed from Tasha's anyways. You still get, at level 6, you get the extra attack and you can replace one with a cantrip. Song of Defense hasn't changed, I don't believe, at level 10. When you take damage while Blade Song is active, you use a reaction, expend a spell slot, and then reduce the damage by 5 times the spell slot's level. It's one of those things where, like, if you're out of shield and or, you would get hit anyways, shield isn't going to prevent, the hit from happening. Or, of course, you take damage from a spell or something that wasn't an attack roll, then it can be useful. And then there's Song of Victory, which says now, it used to be that you would add your intelligence modifier to the damage that you do with your weapon attacks, right? And now it is when you cast a spell that has a casting time of an action, you can make one attack with a weapon as a bonus action, similar to what we see with Eldritch Knights. I don't remember. That used to be their level 7 feature, right? And now I think they still have that, but I can't remember at what level they get it. Anyways. That's it. So on the surface, it looks like, oh, there's some tweaks, but nothing huge. I think these changes are pretty massive. And let me maybe, as I get into kind of my overall thoughts, let me lay some groundwork, as is my wont. So I have a history now of kind of making this argument, and I see it as sort of in opposition to what a lot of people tend to think makes the Bladesinger good. There's almost two schools of thought, I think, when it comes to Bladesingers and maybe spell swords and gishes in general. And one is that Bladesingers are good because they're wizards, right? And that means you get the best spell list in the game, and you can do all of the awesome things that wizards can do. And as a Bladesinger, hey, you get a bonus to your armor class, you get, a bonus to your concentration checks, you get some other nice little perks, but you really shouldn't be going into melee. There are other classes that are better suited for that. You're still kind of squishy. You only have a d6 hit die, right? And really you should be a wizard first and a melee damage dealer second, or maybe third or fourth, or never. Like the melee thing is something that you just kind of do when you've got nothing else better to do, right? That's one school of thought. The other school of thought is one that I tend to promote. And it's essentially that, I want to play a Bladesinger, and what I love about Bladesingers, Gishes, spell swords, is the idea of being a melee first character. And it's one of those things where it's like, well, do I want to play a barbarian or a rogue or a fighter who gets in there and mixes it up? Or do I want to be a Bladesinger? And I'm not necessarily thinking okay, I want to be the best wizard I can be and use Wall of Force and cast a bunch of fireballs and hypnotic patterns and stuff like that, even though those things are very good and arguably more powerful than doing damage in melee combat, right? But this is what I want to do with my characters: be a really good, fun, melee combatant who has a lot of potential versatility and utility to go along with it, where they can be sort of this agile striker and maybe be teleporting when they need to, or sure, throwing out a fireball once in a while, or even a control spell, etc., right? And with that approach, with that idea in mind, the Bladesinger that we got in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything was, I would say, one of, if not the best melee combatants in the game. You could argue against that, and there are plenty of reasons why that might not be the case. You've got a long ramp up time if you're trying to cast concentration spells to buff your attacks. You are still potentially pretty squishy, et cetera, et cetera. But that's how I would tend to build my Bladesingers and play them in combat, and personally found them to be both a ton of fun played that way and really, really powerful. Would my team have been better off had I been playing, concentrating on control spells more? Maybe. Depends on your party makeup, right? So yeah, that's just kind of how I've thought about it. So all of that said, I feel like these changes in the Unearthed Arcana, if they go through, kind of move the Bladesinger a little bit further away from the you can be a really great melee combatant, and a little bit more towards the you're a wizard first and a melee combatant second. And here's why. If I could have created a wish list for what I wanted for the Bladesinger, if and when they got an update for 2024, at the very top of that list, it would have been, let them use their intelligence for their plus to hit and plus to damage, right, with their weapons. And we got that. And I am so thrilled about that. And I was so excited when I first saw it. I was jumping out of my chair. Because it lets you be less mad. It lets you be, good at both weapon attacks and your spells equally, among other things. And it's just awesome, and it's perfect. And now I don't have to multi-class into Battlesmith, Artificer, right, or Armorer in order to get that, or come up with a way to use Shillelagh or whatever. And I love it. I love it. Second on that list might have been, let me use my weapon as a spellcasting focus. So I don't have to worry about paying the Warcaster tax. Not that there aren't other good reasons to take Warcaster, especially now that it's a half feat. But, anyways, that always bothered me that I had to worry about, okay, are my hands full? What am I doing? And we got that, and I love it. But the fact that we no longer can wear armor while blade singing means that we're going to be a little squishier potentially. Now, Mage Armor exists and is a good spell, right? It gives you a 13 AC plus your dex. Well, now it's 13 plus dex plus intelligence. I mean, it always was that. And in the first several levels of a Bladesinger's career, they might have wanted to be concentrating on Mage Armor anyways, because studded leather only gives you a 12 AC, and so it's not as good as Mage Armor, but it takes a spell slot. Especially early on in the game, you don't have a ton of those. That means one less casting of shield, probably, right? It only lasts for 8 hours, which hopefully is enough to get you through an adventuring day, but might not be. It could be dispelled, right, etc. So there's pros and cons, but yeah, I'm not super worried about that, though, you could eventually get magical armor, studded leather and things. And so it kind of bums me out that that's no longer an option. What it does, I think, is really now makes taking a species that has natural armor more enticing than ever, and almost feels like a must-have. Like Tortle Bladesingers already were cool, and sure, who doesn't want to be Leonardo, right, or one of the Ninja Turtles? But now, especially, it feels kind of like okay, like I gotta go Tortle, or something else like it, a lizard folk or a elephant race. What are they called? Anyways, none of the species, if I'm not mistaken, that we have in 2024 rule book, in the player's handbook, have natural armor. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure that's the case. And therefore, if you're playing at a table that only allows 2024 rules, that's going to be not as good, right? But yeah, I mean, a Tortle with a 17 AC, and now you don't have to worry about dexterity, and you can use intelligence for your attacks. That looks really, really strong, frankly. But again, that's assuming you can use Tortles, right? So anyways, we're potentially a little more squishy there, or at the very least sort of pigeonholed into playing certain races, or at least certain races look a lot better than others. But then, the other big change here to Song of Victory, that level 14 feature, and I appreciate that it's a level 14 feature, meaning that a lot of us are never going to get there, right? Because that's a pretty late game for most of us, and for a lot of campaigns, yeah, they don't even get that high. But it used to give you, an additional, a pretty significant damage increase. If you could be making 3 attacks per turn, right, getting an extra intelligence bump on top of the damage that you were already doing, that could be 15 damage in a round, and that's not insignificant. And now it's, cast a spell and then make 1 weapon attack as a bonus action. And so, again, I mean, I appreciate that we can now add our intelligence modifier to all of our weapon attacks ever since level 3, right? But it used to be that you were making attacks probably with dexterity and getting that modifier, and then getting the intelligence modifier on top of it, and it was making really potent weapon attacks. And they're not going to be as potent now. But what you are going to be a lot better at doing is casting other spells on your turn, and maybe still getting a little, weapon damage. And so I guess all of these changes together, now our intelligence is surely going to be our best stat. We're going to be less mad as a result, and we're going to be better at spell casting than we were before. And that's cool, right? And we might be a little squishier, maybe, and that's a bummer. And then our weapon damage has gone down at higher levels, right? But we can cast spells with our action. So in the end, it feels like Wizards of the Coast is sort of pushing Bladesingers more towards the concept of Bladesingers that the Camp 1 holders would have, right? Like, as I explained a few minutes ago, you have like these 2 camps of thinking about it, kind of wizard first versus martial damage dealer first. And it's like we're sort of being pushed a little bit more towards the wizard first mentality of being a Bladesinger. And again, like, the reality is, objectively speaking and in a vacuum, that's probably going to be the most powerful way to play a Bladesinger wizard, right? In that, it it almost doesn't force you, but it encourages you to think more about the awesome wizard spells you could be casting to control the battlefield and stuff, and or maybe, fireball, etc. And maybe a little less about, hey, I'm going to be this amazing melee damage dealer. And so, yeah, so I feel a little torn about that, because while I love the idea of maybe casting Wall of Force more often, and or Fireball or Synaptic Static or Hypnotic Pattern or Fear or Web or whatever, and maybe focusing on my melee damage a little less, like, that's not how I want to play a character necessarily. That's not my favorite way to play a character. I love being, a martial kind of agile striker. And that's me, right? So I guess the way you feel about these Bladesinger changes is largely going to depend on whether, you tend to be a Camp 1 or a Camp 2 kind of thinker. And if you're a Camp 1 kind of thinker, and or are willing to sort of just let yourself be pulled a little bit more in that direction, then I think you're going to love this. And if you're a Camp 2 kind of thinker, then you might be a little more torn. Again, up until level 14, it's pretty much just good. Like, we can cast Mage Armor. Yeah, it's a bummer that if we were to get +2 studded leather, then our AC is going to be lower with just Mage Armor than it would be otherwise, right? But I mean, when are you going to get +2 studded leather? Probably not until tier 2, tier 3 maybe of play, right? And maybe it doesn't matter that much. And or of course you could just go a turtle, and then be fine. So it's really not until we get to level 14 that I kind of go, oh man, that bums me out. Like, I think I would rather have the extra damage. Let me, instead of, now that we can use intelligence for attack and damage, maybe they could make Song of Victory just add your proficiency bonus to the damage that you deal with your weapon attacks, right? Or double your intelligence modifier, I suppose, and go the BG3 route. Take a drink with, what was it, Tavern Brawler, that would double up on your strength damage, right? That was so good. Anyway, so those are my thoughts on the Bladesinger. I'm excited about some of the changes. I'm a little bummed about others. Overall, I'm excited to play with it, and I'll probably do like a full build for it, I think. I don't know. I did that Unearthed Arcana Artificer build. It didn't, well, and it was fine, and it was fun. I don't usually do Unearthed Arcana builds, but it's the Bladesinger. But I did already do a 2024 Bladesinger build, and I don't know that this would change a ton, frankly. I might not multi-class at all, I guess, now. I don't know. We'll have to see. So anyways, if you really want me to do a Bladesinger build with the UA, let me know. And I guess I'll just have to go based on demand. So all of that said, let me now look over at the comments. Hi, comments. And maybe I can kind of at least get to like some of these super chats. I like how you said only Bladesingers, but ranting about all of them. Yeah, that's true, Steven. I figured Bladesingers would get the clicks, right? But I figured people were going to maybe want to know about my take on some of the other stuff, so wanted to go through that real quick. Bora, thanks. Thank you for all the great content. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Here we go. Jackamar. We love you, Colby. Thanks. Love you too. Question: what do you think about not giving Gish full casters any weapon mastery without a feat? I wish they got them personally. Yeah, that's the other thing that I maybe didn't mention. If they were to give Bladesingers weapon masteries, it would feel a bit of like a slap in the face, I think, to your Valor Bards, etc. So I'm not surprised. And I can see them wanting to kind of let marshals have like a niche, and like don't let spellcasters who are already, gonna probably be more powerful than pure martials anyways, get all of their toys to play with. So I appreciate that. At the same time, it makes me think, yeah, maybe I am multi-classing here. Maybe I'm taking a 1-level fighter dip after all. Big surprise. Just to get, it's a bummer that we can't use armor at all now. So, armor proficiency doesn't help us in any way. And we already have martial weapon proficiency, so we don't need that either. But constitution saving throw proficiency is always nice. And yeah, weapon masteries just might be worth it, especially if you're dual wielding, right? And you want to get an extra attack with Nick attack, then it's probably worth a 1-level dip. So anyways, yeah, I would love to see it. I can appreciate why they wouldn't, I guess. Strider Zesse, Reddit raked me over the coals for saying this. Oh, I don't know what this refers to. I wanted new features that would incentivize you to get into melee, like a wizard smite or something. Okay, so kind of, yeah, talking about the fact that we don't, that we're sort of being moved more towards being spellcasters, I'm assuming here. Yeah, Reddit can be a not good place. Please don't spend more time than absolutely necessary on Reddit. I remember when I was first starting this channel, I was making posts on I think it was the subreddit 3D6. And yeah, I would find people like laughing me off the page when I would say things like, rogues don't do very good sustained damage. Anyways, right. Okay, let me just see if there's any other, at least like super chats here that I need to be responding to. Okay, it doesn't look like it. And I don't know how else to go through here and kind of pick out things to reply to if anybody was asking me questions directly. So hopefully you guys were just using the chat to chat amongst yourselves. But yeah, I guess we'll end there. Somebody just asked, what do I think about the optimized Genie Paladin? Yeah, I kind of mentioned at the beginning, I think they're the big winners. For the subclasses, they look super powerful, and they're maybe the ones that I most want to play with of all the ones that I'm seeing. But I kind of love paladins in general anyway. So somebody's asking where the Unearthed Arcana is. You can just find it on D&D Beyond. You do kind of have to scroll down. There's been a bunch of news lately, right? And so it's not like right at the top. But if you scroll down, you'll see like Forgotten Realm subclasses, I think it says. And you can get that. Sorry, Cosmic Rhino, that it's already over, but it will be recorded and available on my channel for you to still watch if you want. So, okay, I'm going to end there. Chat's going crazy, and sorry that I probably didn't respond to your question if you asked me one, but feel free to make it in the comments, and hopefully I'll see it. And oh, now I got a super chat right at the end. Epic Knights, thank you. Hey, doesn't Song of Victory work with cantrips? They are spells too. Right, so Song of Victory specifically says after you cast a spell that has a casting time of an action, you can make one attack with a weapon as a bonus action. So you could take your action to cast a cantrip, like Booming Blade, I'm assuming you're thinking, or True Strike or whatever, but you could also, well, okay, fine. Okay, I see what, I think I see what you're saying here. Extra attack gives us the ability to use a cantrip as part of the attack action, right? And so therefore, couldn't we just take our regular extra attack and now make a weapon attack as a bonus action? I can see that interpretation. There might be an argument where people are saying, look, you know what? Yeah. Maybe I hadn't thought about that enough, because I think you're right. It does not say, I think what I assumed when I first read this is when you use your action to cast a spell, right, with a casting time of an action, then you can make an attack with a weapon as a bonus action. But it does not say that, does it? So here we go, learning live. Cast a spell that has a casting time of an action, you can make one attack with a weapon as a bonus action. Meaning that, yes, if you took the extra attack action, right, and made a weapon attack and then cast a cantrip, well, as long as that cantrip has a casting time of an action, and it would have to in order to qualify for extra attack, then now we can make a weapon attack as a bonus action. And that's great, potentially. If you are like not, going the Nick and dual wielder route where you were already getting a bonus action attack anyways, right? If you're not doing 2-weapon fighting. So I guess the argument there is, hey, now I can wield a longsword or a battle axe and take extra attack and just make attack number 1, attack number 2 with True Strike or Booming Blade, and then attack number 3 all with a longsword. And that's cool. And if I think you were truly trying to optimize for melee damage, you'd get a lot more mileage out of like dipping into fighter, for example, picking up the Nick weapon mastery, dual wielding, a short sword and a scimitar, and then grabbing the dual wielder feat. And in that situation, you can make 4 attacks on your turn. Granted, there's a cost, right? You've got to take a feat, and you've got to take a multi-class dip. So yeah, I mean, I can see the argument, and maybe especially if you were starting the character at late game, like at level 12 or 13 or 14 or beyond, and you're just gonna have Song of Victory right at the beginning, then you might want to say, you know what, I think I'll give up a weapon attack, not dual wield, not have to spend a feat, right? Not have to worry about taking a fighter dip or whatever, and at least I can get 3 attacks per turn. And all with the better, the D8 longsword or whatever. So, there's an argument there, but it's definitely not like a, problem solved kind of thing, I don't think. I think I would still rather have 5 more damage on each hit, personally. And I have a feeling that when I build this character, if I were to build a character using the Unearthed Arcana, that it's going to underperform damage-wise the Bladesinger build that I did earlier, a couple months ago or whatever, using the old rules of the Bladesinger, at least at higher levels. I could be wrong, and I would love to be wrong, frankly. I kind of hope that I am, but we'll see. Okay, Luke, thanks for the 99 cents. You're awesome. Okay, I'm going to end it now because my computer's telling me that my bit rate is lower than recommended. So sorry if this is if this looks all pixely. You guys are awesome. I love you. Thank you for watching. Thanks for, commenting, and especially to all of the super chatters. And yeah, it looks like I'm shutting down. So if it ended early, sorry about that. If you're still watching, you guys are awesome. Have a great day, and I hope to see you soon.